Everyone. Thank you so much, Dio, for your usual warm welcome. Um, I want to say um, it's always a pleasure to be here with you because it gives me an opportunity to talk to some issues that I feel seriously concerned about, but which for some reason most parents are not quite willing to listen to. It is not easy to talk to people one-on-one, especially if you're not close, and you're not sure if what you're saying will be well received by them. But through Hangout with the Boss, I'm able to address the topics that are close to my heart, that I feel we all need to think about. And I'm very happy that of late, a lot of parents are now operating on social media. Many people are on Instagram, they're showing stories of themselves, their children, therapies, and whatever they're doing. But what this does for me is that it also shows me certain aspects of the way they're living their lives or trying to live their lives, and which could be having some problems. There's the aspect of those who have been sharing the stories on one of our popular platforms, which is CP Thursday, where parents come to share the stories. There's also our online platform, Benola's family WhatsApp group, where a lot of people come out and share their birthdays and stuff like that, which is positive. But once in a while, we get somebody who cries out for help. And I'm glad to say that some of the mature parents have been able to come in to intervene, to offer suggestions and stuff like that. We've also had, I think a couple of weeks ago, a very kind young father. Unfortunately, we don't have too many fathers who are coming out to join in and share stories or even showing that they are actively involved in the management of their children. From my experience, I'll tell you that more than 70% of the parents that we have interviewed in going over 3,000 parents in the past number of years have been single mothers. Some of them so young, they're not even married. Others have had their husbands abandon them. Even the parents of the husband also have joined in castigating the woman for being responsible for this problem with the child. So stress is a real issue. You see, parenting in the best of circumstances is marked by numerous responsibilities and pressures. Add to it the additional cares and concerns that come with having a child with special needs. And the task can feel overwhelming. In fact, I want to encourage you and offer hope here, because as tough as it can be, we can all do this thing and do it well. Although I'm not aware of the exact emotions that some of you are wrestling with at the moment, one of the foremost things that parents of a child with special needs have to deal with and work through is grief. We have all sorts of hopes and expectations for our children, particularly in this part of the world. We dream of academic achievements, athletic accomplishments, a successful career, a family, including grandchildren, and so on. While many of these are within reach for a lot of kids with special needs, and we're beginning to see examples of that in Nigeria now, which I'm very glad about. The truth is that for many children, these aspirations as goals may never be achievable. And with grief can come sadness or anger at the loss of the strings. But this does not have to destroy you. You see, to effectively process grief, we need to first acknowledge our feelings and recognize that it is okay and normal to feel sad or angry at the losses that we are and our child, especially is facing. We should give ourselves space and the permission, to express this grief. But one of the most important things that I want us to understand is that having a close relationship with God will not just make us and our family immune from pain and hardship. In fact, the Bible tells us that we will have tough times, very tough times. But the closer we are to God, the greater our ability will be to find purpose and hope, and the better equipped we will be to move through our grief or our difficult periods. With that in mind, let's look at stress. What exactly is it? See, look at this. This is the brain. The outer gray shell is the size of a normal brain. But when stress is factored in, you feel like the whole world is compressing on you. And the brain really tends to shrink and affects a lot of other things in us. Let's look at the physics involved in stress. The physics in stress says that it is in continuum physics, mechanics, stress is a measure of the internal forces acting within a deformable body. Quantitatively, it is a measure of the average force per unit area of a surface but within the body on which internal forces are acting. Those of us who are used to, let's say, taking a Coke out of the fridge and it falls on the floor, you know that excess force that is on it creates a situation where you open the bottle of Coke immediately and everything just spills out. We also are aware that sometimes when you have expired canned food, it tends to swell up. It's the forces within that is doing that. But there are also EQs where we put something in the fridge, and because of the external forces of cooling, the content freezes and it either expands or it contracts. These are all results of various forces acting on us. The internal forces are normally distributed continuously within the volume of the material body and result in deformation, like I just mentioned. And beyond certain limits of material strength, this can lead to a permanent shape change or structural failure. Now, if we look at the biological aspect, it refers to the consequence of the failure of an organism, human or other animal, to respond adequately to mental, emotional, or physical demands, whether actual or imagined. Imagined is important here because you see, if you believe that somebody is working against you, if you think somebody hates you, it's not real, but that it adds to your pressure, that adds to your stress. Okay, so you see, it explains why some of our traditional medicine people and so on always talk about somebody in the village being responsible for certain things that are happening to us. We have to be very careful when it comes to listening to people like that. There's also the, when we look at terminology, stress refers to a condition, while a stressor refers to the stimulus causing it. It covers a wide range of phenomena from mild irritation to drastic dysfunction that may cause severe health breakdowns. The symptoms can be described in 4 areas: cognitive, emotional, physical, and behavioral. The cognitive symptoms include memory loss or problems remembering things, inability to concentrate, poor judgment, seeing only the negative, being anxious or having racing thoughts, which could lead to palpitations of the heart, and constantly worrying about things that may not even be real or happen. Then the emotional symptoms include moodiness, being moody, difficult to excite, irritable, temper tantrums, getting angry at the slightest thing, waking up and snapping at everybody,
Hello, good afternoon, sir.
inability to relax,
Mrs.
feeling overwhelmed, a sense of loneliness and isolation, depression, or general unhappiness. The physical symptoms includes aches and pains, which sometimes we can explain, diarrhea or constipation, feeling some nausea, dizziness, chest pain, rapid heartbeat, which again, like I said earlier, palpitations, loss of sexual drive, and frequent colds. The behavioral symptoms include eating disorder. You find that you are eating too much or too little, just loss of appetite. You have sleep disorder. Again, you can't sleep. You have difficulty in falling asleep. You wake up at night, nightmares and so on. You have then self-isolation where you no longer feel the need to interact with people. You're declining invitations to go out. Even when people want to come and visit, you always come up with an excuse while it's not the right time. Of course, after a while, they'll get tired of inviting you or trying to come and visit you. Procrastination or lack of responsibility, you just give up even on taking care of yourself. And then you get into drug abuse, alcohol, cigarettes, and all kinds of things. And what does that do? It also leads to further deterioration of your body, your mental state. And so you're constantly nervous and just a shadow of your former self. You see, when the threat or stressor is identified or realized by your body itself, it responds by moving into a state of alarm, a state of panic. Resistance. If the stressor persists, it becomes necessary to attempt some means of coping with the stress. And though the body tries to adapt to the strains or demands, it cannot keep up indefinitely until you get to a state when resources become totally depleted. At that stage, exhaustion steps in. Your body is unable to maintain normal function. And if corrective measures are not taken, long-term damage may result, negatively affecting the body's immune systems, impairing bodily functions, and resulting in decomposition. The effect of stress on the immune system or our immune system. Once the body's equilibrium is disturbed, the various hormones are altered, and the effects of such changes can be detrimental to our immune system. So at the slightest approach to somebody who has a cold, we suddenly find ourselves not well, how would I say it? We are unable to get the right things done. Okay, I've just been alerted that my screen was not sharing. Um, so I hope you can see my screen now. Strengths and wound healing. You remember I said the immune system breaks down. Now, this immune system plays a major role in the early stages of wound healing because it is responsible for preparing tissue for repair and promoting recruitment of certain cells, body cells, to the wound area, thereby speeding up the healing process. So you can imagine when it is not functioning well, we will have problems. Post-traumatic stress disorder. This is a very interesting thing. It was first identified with soldiers returning from the Vietnam War, but it has now been seen that it affects everybody who's been through a difficult period. Our mothers in the house and even the doctors will confirm that the stress of having a baby through the normal birth process sometimes changes a woman completely. There have been women who, after having a baby, don't want to have anything to do with the child. Some don't want to have anything to do with their husband, at least no sexual contact thereafter, and so on. So you can imagine when a husband walks away and blames you for the child, or even if you played your child for the child, such a woman can go through the rest of her life until she gets therapy or proper management in very bad mental state. So you have flashbacks, you have nightmares, you avoid any form of stimuli that could be associated with that trauma that you had. It's just a crazy, crazy difficult place of life. So what are the triggers to stress? One of them is lack of control over a situation. Overwhelming responsibilities when everybody expects you to do everything, or when you feel there's nobody there to help, to stand in the gap for you. When you have inadequate work, so you have too much time on your hands, and so you just laze around, and then the next thing, from having too much time, suddenly you run out of time. Or changes in lifestyle that you have difficulty coping with. It could be as much as moving from one place to another and in a new location, even in the same town. Of course, we have discrimination, hate or abuse. Some are verbal, some are not verbal. Sometimes someone can look at you and you just get the impression that they don't like you. And all these things affect us. So what are the stressors? The first is to determine the current stressors in your life. Once you've done that, you try to identify ways to reduce them. And then a very important one is that we make lifestyle changes. Part of lifestyle changes is reprioritizing our lives. I tell people that, look, you need to have a plan for each day. Before you go to sleep, you need to look at what do I have to do tomorrow? And on Sunday, what's my week going to be like? You plan these things and begin to. If you don't do that, there are people who will step in and get you to help solve their problem and mess up the rest of your day. One of the things I learned very early when I was working is that I stopped taking phone calls before 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. The simple reason is that there are individuals at that time when we didn't have GSM who could get to the office earlier than the boss and use the phone in the office to call a lot of people and just do small chat. What that does is to eat into your own time for whatever you want to do for the day. And then guess what happens? Another one is that at a stage when I was getting too many visitors and having my work schedule messed up, I remember one of my young officers came in and advised me that, look, okay, you have to eat. And I said, how can I eat when visitors are outside? Well, I came up with a very interesting formula. I had a kind of private visitors room. And so what they will do is they'll bring my lunch at 12, at 1 o'clock in the private visitors room. And I'll just sneak in there from my office and finish and then come back. And I found that I could manage my day a lot better. So there's a thing. If anybody just showed up, and a lot of people tend to show up because, you see, not because they really came to see you. They may just be in that part of your area to see somebody else. And because the person is not at home, then it's like, oh, who else do I know here? And they show up. You see, if on a day when I've had my bath by, say, 9 a.m., remember, I'm retired, so I don't really have to always be on the road. If I have a visitor before 9 a.m., that visitor will have to wait for me to take my shower because I've realized that if I attend to that person, the next thing is that if they spend 2 hours, by 11:30, 12, somebody else may come and I still haven't had my bath for the day. So it's good to have appointments, both when you're going to see people and when people come to see you. You know, the way to identify a threat or stressors is to write them down. And once you've done that, discuss them with someone whom you trust. It's very important. It's not everybody who wants to share heavy, serious issues in our lives. But some will just mess them up. Some will turn it into a gossip issue. Talking to that kind of person will help you determine exactly what it is or what they are. Then identify those things that will work and begin to. Now let's look at challenges faced by parents of children with special needs. You see, one of them is learning about disability. To do that, you have to do the research. You have to locate people or resources that can be help. You have to assess effective treatments and resources. And this is where there's a problem. There are too many people out there these days suggesting this or that. You remember during COVID, even though it's still technically out there, everybody's telling you to boil this or boil that and do this and do that. And we have evidence and records on social media that show that some people who are talking about boiling this and that actually did the drinking and they died themselves. So we have to be very careful where we're getting information from. We have to learn how to cope with the emotional and physical demands of caring for an individual with special needs or disability. They can be quite exhaustive. The issues in management, they revolve around stigma and fear. Of course, the reality is there, which we need to learn very quickly. And the more we understand about the reality, the better life becomes for us. So, the consequence of stigma, you see, it can lead you to deny the child. That's why a lot of people abandon their child, either in the hospital or somewhere. A lot of people who have homes for special needs will tell you every once in a while somebody just dumps a child by the door. Their issues. Now, even if the child's at home with you, you have issue of neglect, where I've had parents come to see me and confess that, the child is in a room with a caregiver and particularly the husband does not want the child in the sitting room, doesn't want anybody else to see the child, and it can be quite stressful. You have social isolation. You see, even if we provide the best facilities for managing these children, like therapy centers and all that are free and all, the fact that the community is not well informed about these situations would lead to this case where a mother tries to go into public transport And what you get is that some passengers on the bus could be very, very hostile. When there's negative talk like that, a child is drooling, maybe the mother has not been properly informed on how to care and manage a child that has problem with bowel control and so on. There's likely to be foul smell. There are people who are uncomfortable with a child that is drooling. They don't know if the saliva is going to be contagious, infectious, and all of that. And when there's a lot of negative talk, such women will not take the child out again. And so you'll find if you live in a block of flats, you'll know that there's a child upstairs, second or third floor, but you will hardly see the child. Because once the children get to 5, 6 years old, they become difficult to carry. In fact, one of our mothers who hosted our CP Thursday program confessed that her major problem now is that her child is more than 25 kilograms, weighs more, and so carrying him to therapy is telling on her back, on her health. So, people slowly just stop killing this child. I've talked about there's denial. Denial leads to abandonment. And in some very sad cases, you have infanticide where directly or indirectly steps are taken to make sure that the child is no longer with us. And the consequences of fear is that the parent has a sense of inadequacy, particularly the woman. There's depression, often again the woman. You have drastic reduction in family income because a lot of attention, financially particularly, is focused on medication, therapy, and so on for this special child. And that affects the family income. Then you have abuse, child abuse, spatial abuse, and so on. Sometimes it's emotional. But I can tell you as a father of a child with special needs, when a child deliberately refuses to take medicine, and they can be very smart, it's like when you're doing it orally, they can take it, but refuse to swallow it. And when you are not looking, they just spit it out. You know the cost of the medication. The same thing with food, when they sometimes accidentally just smoke their hand and swipe the plate off the table and everything spills on the floor. And there are times when you actually shout on them and even consider smacking them. And so there's all kinds of things. How do you handle stress with children, especially? You need a lot of positive thinking, a lot of self-talk. Remember, we say that everything that God does is for good. It's just that there are times when it takes us a while to really see what the good is. And honestly, with some of the videos that we're beginning to share, and I thank a lot of parents now who are beginning to come out to share stories about themselves and allowing media organizations like BBC Africa and so on to feature them. We're beginning to see the results of, positive impact from the parents. Relaxation, breathing exercises. No matter how tedious the schedule is, you must find time to relax, to do something that you enjoy. We must be organized, plan your day. Don't let anything take you for granted or by surprise. I mean, if your child is going to be up by 6, and you know that from 6 to 8 o'clock, there's so many things that are going to happen. You don't wake the child and start trying to prepare the bath and breakfast and all. You must plan in such a way that either the previous night you have put everything in their place, or you wake up a little bit early and get some of those things ready so that once the child wakes up, things improve. Keep a journal. It's good to keep record of things that are happening. I remember in one of our talks about caring for the power of the tongue and so on. I told you about how, as a parent, you are with your child 24/7. There's no healthcare practitioner, doctor, therapist, nurse, whatever, who will spend more than an hour or so with your child every once in a while. So your documenting things helps you to remember the journey, helps you to be able to explain some of the issues to those people when you see them for proper guidance. We also know that even with your car, you have a car and you're having some noise and some issues. The day you go to the mechanic, he just drives it and the car doesn't behaves fine. And that's with the children. Sometimes when you get to the doctor and the doctor tests and everything looks good. So, but when you're able to show proper documentation of what has happened or what's going on, it helps. Even when the child has runny stomach, it has certain things, certain reacts to certain foods, a journal helps us to know. Then plan family activities, plan situations where you can have fun at home. I know there are times when we have what we call dancing competitions. Laulu sits on his chair, we play music, everybody dances, and so on and so forth. We pray together every night at between 10 and 10:30. It has become a routine in my family. I try to hang with him in the morning and sometimes in the evening, and so on and so forth. So no matter how busy my schedule is, there are times when he expects to see me and I just go and spend, even if it's 30 minutes with him. But there are times when I try, or we try to all do that. Now, what about siblings? Okay, I've heard some parents say, oh, we don't know what happened. We weren't planning, we just found out I was pregnant. Well, the beauty of it is that even though you have a special needs child, especially if it's the first one, you must try to maintain intimacy. And in the process, God will give you a perfect child. Many people are afraid that maybe the next child will be like that. No, settle your mind, leave everything to God. And that new child, second or third child, will end up being perfect helpers to you as they grow. But then the siblings also have problems. They don't have time for their own life to do things that they want to do. It's always stay with your brother, stay with your sister, do this, do that for me. And even as young as 4 or 5 years old, they enjoy it. But with time, it can become a bit of a pressure. Because they find that they're always having to compete for attention. Virtually all the money in the family is being spent on this special child. And that leaves very little for them. After spending so much time with this special child, mommy's tired, daddy's tired, and they're having to figure out what to do themselves. So as they grow up, there are invitations to parties and so on. And unfortunately, what they find is that they cannot attend because somebody has to say, or even when we were a bit younger, myself and my wife occasionally had to go for a wedding or some other engagement. And so they have to stay home. Then as the parents get older, the siblings now find themselves being saddled with the burden of lifelong care. All these things we have to keep in mind, and we have to pray that with proper management, the siblings will get. So what I stress my contacts, as I said earlier, generally for especially these parents, use guided meditation, practice deep breathing, maintain physical exercise, and eat well. You can afford to fall sick because you are too busy with your child. Manage your social media time. A lot of people are beginning to be on social media now, but manage time. You don't want to spend too much time and so on. And make sure that you find a way to connect with others, family, friends, schoolmates. If you're in a position to help a parent with special needs, because even as a special needs parent yourself, you can still help other people. That's why we need to network and share experience. So ask specific questions. Try to be inclusive. Your child may not be having the same medical condition. Autism is different from Down syndrome. It's different from cerebral palsy. It's different from a whole bunch of other things. But hey, special needs is a special needs. And we're all going through some kind of issues, mental, physical, and emotional. Be respectful of the parents' needs. If they don't want to say something, they don't want to go out, no problem. Offer to help in the way they want. Treat them and the child as normal. Because remember, I've always said that in God's eyes, we are as normal as He wants us to be. It is okay to be curious. We don't understand. Why is he not sitting? Why is he still doing this and that? Most people. So what are our stress reducers? These are things that can help with stress. One is sleep. Whatever it is, find time to sleep, even if it is during the day. Learn to say no. Don't accept everything. You see, some of us feel that saying no means we have failed. Hey, if I have, let's say, 5,000 naira in my pocket and I have issues that I know that I need the 5,000 naira for, you're asking me for 1,000 and I say no, doesn't mean that I'm wicked. And we need to understand that. Exercise. We're currently doing stepping for CP, for those of you who are following Benola. It's a very simple way where even within the house, without going out or within your compound, you can try to step from morning to night. And there, you see, I'm currently doing about an average of 2.8 kilometers a day. And how do I do it? You won't believe that there are times when as late as 9 p.m., I realize that I've not even hit 2 kilometers per day. So I continue walking up and down the corridor or go upstairs and up and down steps and so on until I get something close to my minimum target. And it's not about going out and going for a jog for 1 kilometer, 10 kilometers, 5 kilometers. It's okay if that's your gain, but make sure you get some exercise. Hey, laughter. It's the best medicine you can. Of course, if you just start laughing anyhow, people may think you're going crazy. But you see, there's so much online now. There's so much skits being put up by Nigerian comedians and all that. Some of them are not more than 30 seconds. Follow some of them, have them on your phone and your Instagram and all that. And I even save some of them online. If you're interested to know, I have a comedy hand where I do some of these things. And even I go there sometimes just to have a little laugh. Almost every night before I go to sleep, I listen, I view some of these things. 5-10 minutes, it's good to have. We talked about journals. Make sure you document something. Things like temperature, how many times your child had bowel movement, if they throw up, if they have a seizure, how long did the seizure last? All these things are important that we document and keep. Is there anything that you enjoy doing? Once in a while, find time and go and do that. Like I said, spend time with others, learn to medicate. Then get involved in communities. There are all kinds of communities where we can meet, network with people of like minds, and you'll be surprised at how these communities can help you. Some are local, some are national, some are international. Then you have the online communities. We have the Benola's CP Family WhatsApp group. We do CP Thursday every Thursday, where one parent comes for an hour. We have this Hangout with the boss, which I try to do once a month. There are all kinds of platforms and areas in which you can do this. Now, positive community responses. Like I said, listen to music, humor, laughing, even crying. There are times when we need to cry, we need to just let it all hang out. Um, you know, hanging out with a friend or friends, taking a bath or a shower, sometimes at the in the middle of the day, later in the day. I'm not like, oh, I had a shower in the morning. No, if you feel under pressure and under tension, you'll be surprised what that does for you. Find other relaxing activities that you and then, especially when the child goes to sleep in the middle of the day and so on, that's when you need to sit down, put your feet up, put on the television or some cool music, take tea, coffee or juice, and or read a book and just unwind. Anger management is also something, there are courses, some are online, some are practical, and there are even books you can read on anger management that will help you. Pray is very important. Wake up in the morning, pray, thank God for the night, pray for the day, pray even as you go along the day, as things are happening, every time you're under pressure, call on God. It doesn't have to be a full-time prayer, just simple thing like, look, Lord help me. It's still prayer. And then sometimes you go to a place of worship, there's peace and quiet, or you can get counseling there. We talked about exercising indoors and outdoors, discussing with your spouse. It's very important that we discuss some of these issues so that we're on the same page in terms of treatment, in terms of cost, and so on. Remember, most men are always thinking about financial implication. Most women are thinking about we have to do it. But at the end of the day, we have to find a balance. And it's always good when there's a balance. Find something to do around the house, cleaning the house, some gardening outside, redecorating, rearranging your house. All these things are therapeutic and will help you cope with stress. We talked about treatment, medication, also relaxation, making them follow through action plan to solve problems, seeking counseling if you continue to struggle with stress. There are some negative ones. And the negative positions is like when you criticize yourself negatively, you talk negatively, you blame yourself for everything. Some people drive very fast, and they carry this anger along. That's called rage, road rage. You need to watch out for people like that. You need to be careful not to become one of such people. Chewing your nails, becoming aggressive or violent, hitting someone and just throwing or kicking something. So eating too much, too little, or over drinking, smoking, drinking out of home, yelling at your spouse, your children, your friends, taking drugs, recreational drugs. You see, anything, even prescription medicine can be abused. So please, let's be very careful about that. And we see ourselves going there. If we have been told to take 2 Panadols at maximum 4 hours, don't try after 2 hours and say, let me take another 2 because it's not working. Rather, you consult a doctor, get expert advice, maybe they'll prescribe something stronger, and so on. Sleeping tablets, they give you a sleeping tablet and say to take 1 a night. Don't start taking 2 or 3 because you have a box of tablets. We have to be disciplined about this thing. We have to stop avoiding people, our friends and our family. We must create space for people to come and see us and also for us to attend events. Now, you see, all coping responses have their limitations, like not being available on a regular basis or often enough to do the most good, not producing the complete relaxation that is best for undoing the harmful effects, sometimes leading to new kinds of stress, as in a holiday that becomes hectic or a highly competitive sports activity. But this is life. Stress is all there. The truth is that everybody goes through stress. It's just that some people cope better with stress. And the more we understand the issues at hand, better it is for us. That's what I tell people. I said, look, let's get knowledge. Whatever it is that is affecting us, our child, and so on, we need to get knowledge. Because knowledge is power. The more you understand, the more you are in a position to even educate those who are trying to help you by recommending or referring what could be dangerous to you. Social media is there, the internet is there. Make Google your friend. You'll be shocked at the number of times a day that I Google. I can just listen to the news or reading something, and something is mentioned. It could be some strange animal, it could be something from history, it could be whatever. And then you'll find very good information about what you're looking for, which what it does, it makes you suddenly more intelligent than the kids. So to manage stress, it requires that we make changes in our lives. People talk about lifestyle changes. We create and stick to new schedules. We begin to prioritize those things that are most important and add them to our stress reducers. We eliminate unnecessary stresses. And finally, we make appropriate lifestyle changes for healthier living. There are a few things to say to someone who is stressed. Things like, you are not alone. You can always count on me. It is okay to take a break, and it is okay. How can I help? And be sincere about it. Your feelings are valid. You have done it before. You can do it again. Focus on one thing at a time. You see, when people are under stress, you see that they're trying to do so many things at the same time, and it only adds to stress. And of course, all around them. I'm here for you if you want to talk. They may not call you immediately, but honestly, hours later, a day or two later, they may get that phone call. And when it comes, please let them talk and you just listen. Because I have also found in my experiences in life that the solution to people's problems is usually in the information that they share with you. Yours is just to redirect them to that piece of information. So, take good care of yourself. Cry if you must. And hug somebody. It's not so much in our culture. Our women do it all the time. They hug themselves. Our men are too macho to hug somebody. But honestly, a hug is a very reassuring thing. And do it if you need it. And don't be shy to do all these things put together will bring us through the most grueling of times. Thank you very much for the attention. And I hope that the information given here will help us to lead less stressful lives.